Black hair is nothing short of magical. The way it uniquely grows towards the heavens defies gravity and can be molded into nearly any shape is a privilege that is distinct to black women. Now, if you're a black woman, you most likely dread walking into town with your natural hair out because that usually leads to harassment by street hairdressers offering to do your hair at a cheap price. Hairpiece included my sister, they say. Normally, I am not one to turn down a bargain, but what I dislike about this particular form of harassment is the implication behind it. The implication that you don't want to look that way. The implication that your natural hair is a transitional state, that you couldn't possibly want to walk around looking like that, and that it needs to be fixed. You see, due to an internalized anti blackness, your natural hair is seen as a transitional state as opposed to an intentional representation. People of other races can wash their faces and just leave the house. But God forbid a black woman does the same thing. We are told we have guts to choose to show up to other people as we look when we are chilling at home. It most certainly doesn't help that everywhere you look on TV, magazines, social media, music videos, and the like, the black women that are successful and whom we look up to and who are placed on a pedestal seem to uphold these anti black standards of beauty. They wear all kinds of wigs and weaves of all colors and textures, some long enough to tickle their ass cracks, as Cardi B proudly proclaims in Glorilla's Tomorrow remix. If the women that are considered beautiful in society look nothing like me, how, as a young black woman, am I supposed to feel beautiful with my own natural hair? Now, why is that? How did an entire race of people come to hate their hair? Why have we come to worship standards of beauty and types of hair that are not naturally ours? In today's video, we do a deep dive into this. Before the forced migration of African people began during the 15th century, the idea that black people's hair was somehow difficult to manage was non existent. Black hair was, in fact, a source of pride and identity for black people. Part of the dehumanizing process that European slave masters did was to change the meaning and significance of black people's hair. They labeled the hair as fur or wool as a way to associate black people with animals, using this as a rationale as to why they should be treated as slaves. Hair also played a role in the way enslaved workers were treated. If the texture and kink of one's hair more closely resembled European hair, they would receive better treatment. People with tightly coiled hair would be treated as subhuman, while those with looser curls, who were sometimes mixed race, were typically deemed as house slaves. These were the ones you would typically find in the kitchens, butlering or nannying the children of slave masters. It was these types of conditioning methods that laid the foundation for the hair texture hierarchy to be socially constructed. During the 19th century, slavery was abolished in much of the world, including the United States, in 1865. However, many black people felt pressure to fit in with the mainstream white society and adjusted their hair accordingly. Black people felt compelled to smoothen their Black people felt compelled to smoothen their hair and texture to fit in easier. and to move in society better. Wigs and chemical treatments became the means to achieve smoother, straighter hair. With the civil rights movement of the 1960s and 70s came the rise of the natural hair movement that encouraged Black communities to accept their hair and turn away from damaging products. As Black people protested against racial segregation and oppression, the Afro hairstyle emerged as an assertion of Black identity in contrast to the previous trends inspired by mainstream white standards. Sporting the Afro hair was its own form of activism and seen as a statement in reclaiming Black people's roots. It was a symbol of rebellion, pride, and empowerment. Popular icons of the time, like Angela Davis and Diana Ross, were known for courageously wearing their afros. Because a woman like Diana Ross initially wore wigs and straight hair, for her to embrace an afro, it really centered the Black aesthetic in the mainstream eye and showed that it could be just as beautiful. But alas, the era's non-conforming hairstyles were met with a backlash, like many other aspects of the civil rights movement, and criticized and deemed unprofessional. As Black men and women pushed for acceptance by going natural, they were met with resistance. The 1980s ushered in the birth of hip hop, which had a huge cultural influence on style. The 1990s were the time when women really started to be in the forefront of hip hop, and Aaliyah was one of the women who integrated hip hop with beauty. Whether performing on stage, walking the red carpet, or being on the big screen, the singer never strayed from her straight hair and signature side swooped bangs, which continues to inspire generations of women to mimic the style. Aaliyah's influence made straight hair a part of the uniform of being beautiful in that genre. The perpetuation of these concepts throughout the centuries, from the creation of a hair hierarchy to laws requiring Black women to cover their hair in public, birthed the notion within the Black community that proximity to whiteness, not traditional Black features, was the benchmark for beauty and higher status in society. In South Africa, the politics of Black hair is largely rooted in segregation laws introduced during colonization and apartheid. During colonial and apartheid eras, African hair and hairstyles were presented as bad, inferior, and uncivilized, while the white ideal of long straight hair was represented as superior. Hair that was once regarded as a symbol of Black beauty in historical African communities turned into a tool for dehumanizing Black people during apartheid. The pencil test was one of the ways used to determine one's racial hierarchy. A pencil was inserted into an individual's hair, and if it fell out, one was classified as colored, and if it did not fall, the person was considered Bantu or Black. This means that hair was a tool that would determine your standard of living and the quality of life you would have in South Africa at the time. To gain social acceptance and move up the social ladder, some Black women felt compelled to copy hairstyles and skin tones that resembled the Western ideal. These women resorted to chemically altering their hair, wearing wigs, and applying skin lightening products on their faces to change their skin tone. And yet, even in the 21st century, in a South Africa freed from the physical shackles of apartheid, the country is still governed by elements of white aesthetics and dynamics of anti Blackness. Black people living in South Africa have not been spared from the wave since they are exposed to global cultures through images they consume in both local and international media and the presence of multinational beauty companies in the country. These multinationals have introduced a wide range of products and create a consumer market through advertising. Through their products and advertising campaigns, the multinational companies in South Africa have an influence on local cultures and largely determine what is considered to be the aspirational ideal. And it seems that black women are still under pressure to conform to the white ideal. Practices that disparage the black body, particularly hair, still persist, as is evident in an incident in 2016 at Pretoria Girls High School, a high school whose rules included that black girls had to straighten their natural afro hair or risk being barred from writing examinations. According to the students, some of the teachers would use derogatory terms to describe black hair, such as dirty, untidy, demonic, uncontrollable, and likening it to a bird's nest. This sparked protests by the students. The school called in the police, and that included guns and the K9 unit, dogs, guns, and a visible police presence, all for some little girls marching in silence to protest unfair and untenable school rules. All because these young girls did not want to relax their hair. As you can see, when it comes to black women, it's not just hair.
Hi guys, this is my real hair and my mom wears wigs the whole day. Nema. Yo, leave me alone, Nema. Leave me alone. So she wears wigs and makeup, guys, and I don't like that. She's not always normal and look at my hair. Nema. Yo, sushi.
Representation matters, not only for us to feel good individually, but also to the younger generations to see examples of people who look like them in all aspects of life and work. It may sound like it's not that deep, but it is that deep for the young girl who will grow up hating her hair because she doesn't see anyone who looks like her on TV, on social media campaigns, and on the packaging of hair care products. The generational cycle and culture of self depreciation and self hate has to stop. How can anyone believe that black is beautiful if we don't truthfully believe it ourselves? It all starts with us. We have to convince ourselves first. Because we have been socialized to be reliant on white approval, it's understandable that in order to assimilate and fast track our careers, we tend to feel the pressure to fit in and uphold white beauty standards. And it's not just that. Black women have been using their hair as a way to signal status throughout history. This is just a modern iteration of the phenomenon. The type and quality of wig or weave a person is seen wearing is in modern day used to determine their social status. Given the price attached to some weaves, it is easily conceivable how they can become a way of making class distinctions visible. We need to free ourselves psychologically and reclaim our identities. Deprogramming yourself from a lifetime of conditioning is not an easy feat, I know that. But we have to challenge our own fears of feeling less desirable and attractive wearing our natural hair. We have to deconstruct the dominant narrative of what good hair looks like. We need to normalize glam looks with natural hair. We need to associate black women in their natural states with luxury. Black women should be free to leave their hair unbraided and untreated without facing criticism, to attend events with it, be seen on magazine covers. If all the girls do it, I swear the negative narrative associated with Afro hair will be transformed. the inferiority complex that has plagued the Black community will begin to dissipate.